Very rarely are you going to mark a ton of fish until you catch 2 or 3, maybe pull them to the boat. Then it might blow up the graph, or you might see them come up schooling or something. You might get them fired up. But what I like to do to kind of look for these mid-depth fish, mid-depth and deep's kind of similar, but talk about deep in a minute. So mid-depth, there's no cover. It's just that slick nothingness in the ditches. And I'll pull in a pocket, set the boat down out deep in about 35 or 40, and I'll idle right down the middle of the ditch. And what I like to do is I take my GPS, my Lowrance, and I mark waypoints the entire length of the ditch. Like, because that dark spot that I mentioned you can see earlier, the fish usually use it as kind of like an ambush zone. I think they follow it. It doesn't look like much on the graph, but I think the fish use it to move back towards the back to that schooling area. So I'll idle right down the middle, set my range on 100, 150 feet, which is usually these ditches in that zone are, 100 yards wide or so. And I'll idle right down the middle, and I'll put waypoints every 20 feet, 30 feet, all the way down the ditch, because the pocket may look dead straight. I mean, it may be you looking straight at the back, but that ditch usually will make a wind. It might go under this dock here. It might come back to the left bank, and it'll kind of vary on where it runs down through there, and the fish are using it. So after I mark that, sometimes you might mark fish, sometimes you don't. Usually if I mark nothing, I will actually move on to another ditch. But generally, when you idle these, you'll see 2 fish maybe. And I don't know how familiar you are with like the down scan on some of these fish stuck to the bottom. We're talking pretty cold water here. They don't look like much. I mean, you're talking, I'll run side scan and then a little small down scan thing. And side scan, you may never see them. You see the ditch, but you don't see anything. So on your down scan, it'll look like a bump is all I can explain, a bump on the bottom. I mean, because they are stuck. Some of these fish you catch are like, they're in the mud. And spots and largemouths, both species. So they're very difficult to see. But so if I idle down the ditch and I think I see like, oh, that looked like 2. Oh, that might have been 3. Well, if you see 3, there's probably 30. It's just one of those things where you're looking at a small portion going down the middle, and they're so stuck on the bottom that they're very hard to see. So if I see 1, 2, 3 fish, I'll make one pass. Go back out, circle back out to 25, take an underspin. It's one of my favorite baits. It's no secret around here anymore, underspin, and start out in about 25, and I'll make cast right down the middle and following my waypoints. If I'm going down the middle, I'm like, oh, the ditch makes a turn under this dock. I'll throw across the front of that dock, and then it'll turn back left. And usually, what you'll find in these ditches, by the end of by fishing them 2 or 3, 4 times, you'll start realizing, well, I caught 2 in it, and then you come back later. I'm like, well, I caught 2, but it was right in front of that same dock. There's nothing on the bottom, maybe a rough spot that you can't see, but there's nothing specifically there. And you'll start putting a specific spot in every one of these ditches that the fish live on while they're waiting for these herring to kind of move in, and the bass are going to ambush them. So, and I also have, when I'm fishing that mid-depth, I always have my jerkbait and my fluke on, because they'll come up schooling in the mid-depth occasionally too, and you want to be ready for that situation. And a lot of times when you catch one, they'll come up schooling. That's another thing when you're fishing ditches, herring fishing in general. Very rarely is it one fish. You always want to be prepared. A lot of y'all are high school fishing, and it's team tournaments. So when you're doing this and you hook one, your partner always needs to get in behind you or drop straight down when you get the fish in the boat.
It's Mike Iaconelli. This is Bass U TV.
Here's what's awesome about Bass U TV.
You get the top instructors.
You will learn things at Bass U that you will learn nowhere else.
We take the mystery and the myths out of bass fishing.
Real tools that help you catch more fish consistently.
At Bass U TV, shoes are optional.
And I like turtles.
And that's why you want to check out Bass U TV.
Join the Bass U family.
Welcome to Bass U TV.